Relocating to New York City is framed as an aspirational milestone, but the logistical reality is a high-stakes legal process with zero margin for error. For successful professionals, a simple misalignment on immigration paperwork doesn't just cause a delay, it creates permanent consequences for your capital and your legal status. Without a long-term strategy, you risk being trapped in the wrong corporate structure, having your investment capital frozen, or finding yourself in the United States with an expired status. Securing an elite U.S. visa is a calculated financial and legal maneuver that demands absolute precision from the first filing. I'm Norka Schell. I am a dual-licensed attorney in New York and Brazil, specializing in bridging the gap between these two distinct legal systems. Success in the U.S. system requires more than filling out forms. You must legally translate your Brazilian corporate and personal assets into the specific frameworks required by U.S. law. Today, we are focusing exclusively on the 4 fast-track pathways utilized by high-net-worth individuals: the L1, the EB2 NIW, the EB5, and the E2. Your optimal path is determined by your strongest asset class, your existing company, your professional talent, or your available capital. We begin with your corporate entity and the L1 visa pathway. This requires an active, qualifying business in Brazil that is currently expanding into a New York office. The L1 is optimized for speed. It allows executives to enter the U.S. and begin managing their New York operations almost immediately under a non-immigrant status. However, this pathway introduces a significant vulnerability known as status dependency. Because your visa is tethered to the company, your right to remain in the U.S. is tied to the business's success. If the New York expansion fails or the Brazilian parent company closes, your legal status ends. The L1 is the fastest way to become operational in Manhattan, but it links your personal residency to your corporate health. If your primary asset is your individual talent, the EB2 National Interest Waiver provides a different trajectory. This requires undeniable documentation proving that your professional expertise and your proposed endeavor provide a direct benefit to the United States. The unique advantage of the NIW is the ability to self-petition for a green card. You do not need a U.S. employer to act as your sponsor. The trade-off is a heavy administrative burden. The government subjects these petitions to intense scrutiny, requiring massive amounts of evidence to prove your eligibility. You should also expect a longer timeline. Unlike the L1, the EB2 NIW requires a significant waiting period before you can actually move to New York. This path trades immediate speed for long-term career independence and permanent residency. For those with significant liquid capital, the choice often falls between the EB5 and the E2. The EB5 requires an $800,000 investment into a targeted U.S. enterprise, with the funds remaining at risk throughout the process. This route involves long processing times and a multi-year capital lockup, where your funds are not easily accessible. In exchange for this commitment, the EB5 offers a direct, predictable path to a green card for the investor and their immediate family. Brazilians who also hold a European passport have a more agile alternative, the E2 Treaty Investor Visa. The E2 requires a substantial investment to start a business, but the financial threshold is significantly lower than the $800,000 required for an EB5. The drawback is that the E2 is a non-immigrant visa. It must be renewed indefinitely and does not lead directly to a green card. Investors must decide between the permanence of the EB5 and the capital liquidity of the E2. This summary matrix outlines how these pathways function based on your specific profile. Select the L1 if you have a stable Brazilian company and your priority is becoming operational in New York as quickly as possible. Choose the EB2 NIW if you have high-level expertise and your goal is career autonomy and permanent residency. The E2 is for dual passport holders who want to launch a business quickly with lower capital requirements. Reserve the EB5 for those with high liquidity, whose primary objective is a green card for their entire family, regardless of the weight. There is no single correct visa. Success is a matter of selecting the legal instrument that matches your existing assets. Applying for these visas without a cross-border strategy that accounts for your Brazilian assets is a significant financial risk. You need counsel that understands both the Brazilian business environment and New York legal requirements. Visit thelawschell.com to book a private consultation. We will analyze your assets and identify your most effective pathway. Subscribe to @LawSchell to stay informed on the legal strategies required to protect your move to New York.